Hello everybody, Brent Deerking here in the first of what we hope are many videos to bring to you timely information to help you in your daily work practices. In the spirit of our mission statement to provide personalized and professional care to our community, it's important that we review topics with you to make sure that we are compliant with federal and state rules and regulations, as well as meet the expectations of our standard operating procedures. To have Tina McLaughlin again to talk to us about another subject that affects patient billing, and that has to do with the ABN form, or what we typically have called the Advanced Beneficiary Notice. So Tina, thanks for being here. And I guess the first question this afternoon is, what is an Advanced Beneficiary Notice?
An Advanced Beneficiary Notice is just that. It is an Advanced Beneficiary Notice that lets the patient know that there is a possibility, namely Medicare, may not pay for their transport or may not pay for additional mileage for their transport, and they have a right to accept the transport or refuse the transport.
So who completes that form?
Well, the ABN form itself is completed by you, the crew member. You have options on the ABN, and I will show it real quick. You have, for the patient, option 1, where they are saying, yes, I do want to be transported, and I do understand that I would be responsible if Medicare did not pay for my bill. Option 2 says, I want the service, but I do not want you to bill Medicare. I'm willing to pay out of my pocket. Option 3 is stating that they do not want the service that is listed above, and they do not want you to bill Medicare. In other words, they're refusing a transport.
So our team members are great at identifying whether or not a patient truly needs the ambulance for transportation to the hospital or a doctor's office, the dialysis facility. So in situations where they really believe that that patient doesn't meet medical necessity and they really could be transported by another means, is that the time an ABN should be completed?
That is correct. That would be the time you would get an ABN completed, signed, and dated.
Okay. So another question that typically comes up about the ABN form has to do with whether or not you're responding to 911 calls versus non-emergency calls. So my understanding is that if you respond to a 911 call, typically an ABN is not necessary.
That's correct. If you are responding to a 911 call, according to Medicare guidelines, if the patient is under any kind of duress, whether that is emotional or physical, if they are under any kind of duress, an ABN is not expected to be obtained. However, you do need to document what that duress is.
And then for non-emergency calls, if they really believe the patient could be transported by another means, that definitely requires an ABN.
That is correct.
So who designed those forms? Who created them?
The forms that we use are designed specifically by CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. We are required to use a particular form with specifics in place that are directly related to our service. However, we have to use their form.
And another follow-up question, at least in my mind, would be, what happens when we don't comply with the rules and regulations?
If we do not get an ABN signed, and we should have because the patient did not meet medical necessity or they were not going to the appropriate location, if we do not get the ABN signed and Medicare denies the claim when we file the claim, Medicare may come back and say, hey, North Star, you didn't tell the patient that their insurance may not pay for this, so we're not going to pay you, and guess what? You can't bill the patient either. So North Star, you get to absorb the cost of that. Write it off.
So it's interesting, in the first video we did, we talked about the HIPAA form. Are there any penalties for not providing that notice of HIPAA?
Yes, there certainly are. Surprisingly to some of you, there are civil penalties that are in connection with HIPAA, and the HIPAA police can fine and will fine you and North Star for each occurrence. They will fine you $100 for each occurrence up to $50,000. So they can hold you responsible for not giving the HIPAA notice of privacy practice.
It's quite an incentive for wanting to be compliant.
Yes, it is. It would definitely be an incentive for me.
So the forms that we've spoken about when we talked about HIPAA before and now today the ABN form, those are typically located in the ambulance, and I think they're contained within the clipboards for each assigned unit. So it's important then that our team members check that on a daily basis to make sure they have plenty of those forms available.
That is correct. Check your clipboards. Be sure that you have them. If you don't, check with the where you keep your forms at the base. If they are not there, please notify the billing office so we can get them to you promptly.
So as we end this segment, I would just also state that this is yet another form of patient care. When we talk about patient care, especially to our team members, it's not just the physical care that we give, but it's also dotting the I's, crossing the T's to make sure that the complete experience with North Star EMS up to and including the billing process goes as smoothly as possible. So we appreciate your attention to this segment, and we hope this information is beneficial. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to contact your supervisors and or your manager, and stay safe, and thank you for the job that you do.